It's time to pop the top off with Pub Talk. Today, we are back with football and basketball happening at the college football level. Micheal, Vick's 30 for 30 and Hops of the Week to finish us off. But before we get to all that, Pub Talk is brought to you by Route 11 Chips. Social distancing is the law of the land, so that means it's time to stuff your face alone with some chips, and Route 11 has got you covered. Since 1992, Route 11 has been chipping away to give its consumers a great and tasty product. So make sure you check out your local Martin, Spoon Line, and Giant and pick up a bag today. Okay, lights, beer, action. Happy Memorial Day, everybody.
Right. Yeah, man.
We hope that you are staying safe out there still, even though it is very warm outside. The weather is nice. We went to a brewery yesterday. Actually, went to two of them. But the weather outside is really good now, and it looks like things are looking up right now for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Everyone's going back to their normal routes now. It seems like
Routines.
States are letting go of some of their restrictions right now. They're easing up.
Right.
Beaches are being opened up. We live very close to a place called Ocean City, and there was a picture taken of the boardwalk that was there, and it looked
packed.
Thousands of people.
Yep.
Don't worry. Some of them were still wearing masks for you freaks out there.
I saw 3 with masks.
Okay, but then the rest of them were actually wanting to just go out and walk around, it seems like.
Right.
Be a normal human being.
Right.
But speaking of the beers, though, I do want to talk about the beers that we did get yesterday. We'll talk about one of them today. And then next week, we'll have another beer for you from the breweries that we went to.
I'm going to mention Woodstock Brewhouse by name because they were the first stop on yesterday. And while the weather was kind of crappy, we did get ourselves into a little spot with an umbrella and stuff. And then the rain eventually broke off and stuff like that. But I'm telling you what, right now, I'd seen the brew house before. I'd gone by it, but I'd never stopped in. I'd never, actually sat down. And I got a flight of 5 beers. And I'm going to tell you what, I didn't have a bad one in the batch. Not one. They were all good. I had something called Sweet Buzz, which was a honey wheat beer. Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. It's 5.9% alcohol by volume, but just a very smooth. They spiced it with a little bit of a lemon, and I'm telling you, that did the trick. Not an orange, but I could see an orange working as well in the honey wheat situation, but was the perfect addition. I had this 7 Bender, which was an American Pale Ale. It was a little hoppy for me, but other than that, it was pretty good. And because it was a good cold samples, too. I had a Nutty Brown Ale as well. It's called the Tipsy Squirrel.
Tis a bit nutty.
Tis a bit nutty. What does he say in that movie? This coffee tastes like shit. Anyway, so Tipsy Squirrel was really good. It was a brown ale, 6.1%, and you could really taste the malt in that, and I didn't mind it at all. In fact, it was just a very refreshing beer. They had one called Sexy Cerveza, which is an amber lager, and it was a
Spanish
medium
for beer. If you want to know that,
it was a medium style Mexican beer style. Along the lines of Corona, maybe. Very light. Not hearty in terms of its flavor and things like that. But no bites, no aftertaste, none of that. Also a really good one. And then, of course, probably my overall favorite was something they call the Massanutten Milk Stout. And it was a full-bodied beer. And it just had I don't know how you would explain it other than to tell you that it had a very much roasted coffee flavor to it, but it was a sweet coffee, like caramel was in it kind of thing. And I'm telling you what, it was phenomenal. I had to get some. So, because you can get it canned there. They don't sell it in the stores, but if you get a chance to get down to Woodstock Brewery, You can get your beer canned. I got the Sweet Buzz canned as well. And I'll tell you what, great, nice little stop. I think we're going to save the other local brewery that we hit for next week. You want to save them for next week?
Yeah, we can say box office.
Because I'm gonna say the other one was really local to us in a little town called Strasburg, Virginia, and they have multiple beers there as well. They are called Box Office Brewery. We're going to talk about them next week, but we're actually going to have samples because we'll probably have a guest next week. We're shooting to have a guest, and we want to have the samples available, and I got canned beer from Box Office as well. So, and it's so close that I can always go back in a short period of time and go get some more. But we will talk about them next week. We don't want to spoil Woodstock Brewhouse's. I just want to say thank you. The ladies that were there were just so helpful, and the beer was delicious. Outside of the weather, I can't wait to go back. I think it's going to be a great place. I know your brother liked it. Your mother didn't mind it too much.
That's because he's an alcoholic.
Well, they have. Stop it. They have. They also have local wines as well. So that's very attractive to
He'll
people.
probably
as
drink
well.
those too, because like I said. But speaking of movies, when we were referencing Austin Powers there,
Yeah.
like. You know, what do you do on your Memorial Day? Well, I was just watching John Wick upstairs, the first one.
You were?
Yeah, I'm watching the first one.
Where was it at? Was it on TV? Did you?
No, I have it on my Xbox. I bought it like a long time ago, like 3 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, I can always sit down and watch that.
Yeah, I told your mother I wanted to freaking bring it up and watch it again.
I don't... Like, I know our mom is like, Jesus Christ. It's like, how many times are you going to watch that?
Doesn't matter.
Well,
It's like
how
me
many
and
times
Jaws.
I can't get over it that... Why did they have to go and take his car and kill his dog? Like, why did they have to do it? Right. And it's right. It was all
That car
over.
was so important that you had to go and kick the man when he was down and kill his dog. That's not. He killed a man with a
like. Don't get me wrong.
fucking
I went back
pencil.
and watched the new Rambo, the last one, because it's on Amazon Prime Video.
Yeah.
And like, don't like. I get that Rambo is like whenever he slams his hands on the door right in front of the ex-father, and he goes, "I should have broken your fucking neck when I had the chance." I go, "Okay, I just crapped myself." But when I see John Wick, I go, like, what did this guy do?
There's
like,
a subtle smoothness to him, though.
I know,
you
but
know,
there's
and-
always the background that everyone's like,
Right.
What did you do? Like you it's
Yeah.
like you stole John Wick's car, sir, and killed his dog. Oh, that's all you. What did he say? Enough. He says nothing on the other side of the phone. Like that shit. Like makes me go.
I heard
Who
you.
is this
I
guy?
heard you slap my son. That's right, sir. I did. Why did you slap my son? Because he stole John Wick's car and killed his dog.
Oh. Yeah. And then that scene though is just.
Yeah.
I
Classic.
think if you want to talk about a great scene in cinema history where you make someone scared for their life, like what in the world? I'm just talking about the actor himself, even though he passed away from cancer, lung cancer. His scene right there where he has that emotion.
Who
in his
is?
I forget.
The
his
guy who
name.
plays the Russian?
Yeah, Vigo.
He died?
Yeah, he passed away with lung cancer.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, he smokes like a motherfucker in that movie. It's
Yeah,
no wonder.
but that scene right there, his emotion and
Yeah,
his
yeah.
face where he stays.
It was like
focused.
it's real. It's a story.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
it's
like-
some made up story on
And
a
it's
piece
about-
of paper,
and like they
but
say,
he
it's
pulls
like
it off.
Yeah, it's like the boogeyman. And
Yeah.
you're like, what? It sounds like the boogeyman. Like it's a guy that you never wanted to notice, and
You don't
like,
want him coming around. That's for damn sure.
And also, like Yusuf, like messing with the wrong guys, like the fucking nobody. You picked the wrong nobody to mess with.
Right.
Like, you completely messed up.
Right.
But anyway, like that's what I'm doing on my Memorial Day. I'm watching John
Yeah,
Wick.
I think I'm gonna. I can afford $2.99 CJ or $3.99. I can probably rent.
can.
I can probably rent it for a couple
But
days.
speaking of money coming back into the picture, the NCAA
Yes.
has voted
Yes.
to allow for football and men's basketball as
Yeah.
right now of the season
Right.
to come back this fall and going into the spring as well, because that's
Right.
how long men's basketball goes.
Right.
Now, one of the things I'm sure people are like curious about is like, well, I mean, how is this going to work? Well, right now, the NCAA came out with a message saying that on June 1st, everything's back to normal.
Voluntary.
Everything's voluntary on June 1st.
But you know as well as I do, when I put my air quotes out there, if you're talking about a football program, a high profile Power 5 freaking college football team, when you put the air quotes voluntary up there, well, everything's pretty much voluntary in college. So, but your ass will be there. And it's just an opportunity for them to get back on the field.
And then starting June 30th, all ships ahoy. That's it. That's
provided that all of the universities agree with this. I'm not so certain because I was listening. Your mother and I were talking about it this morning, and James Franklin at Penn State was not 100% sure that they would have a complete schedule because will all of the teams in the Big Ten participate?
True. I mean,
because one of them is Michigan. When you looked at, Michigan's locked down tighter than a freaking frog's ass.
Here's the thing, though, is that, like, if it is a reduced schedule, it's going to happen regardless.
But yes,
it's going to happen.
Yes, and the argument I wanted to make is that, okay, so if Michigan doesn't do it, well, that's your tough luck. You made that decision. Because I think on the other side, if somebody's willing to take that risk and continue on with their season, and whether it's fractured or whatever, well, you see if you can recover from not playing an entire season. You see if you can do that.
And that's why I think these teams, I know this may sound awful, but I don't give a fuck. These teams, they will lose millions of dollars if they do not have a football season or a men's basketball season. The NCAA, you want to know one of the big reasons why I feel the NCAA vote on this? It's because they lost millions. And I mean,
I think it was
$100 millions and millions of dollars.
I think it was $1.2 billion from March Madness.
$1.2 billion. I
think that's what the number was.
The NCAA is
can't
like,
be 100%
hell
sure
no,
on that.
we are not letting this go again.
Right.
Because, and think about it from this perspective. This isn't just about admission. This is about the TV rights. This is about the sponsorships. This is about the arenas. This is about the publicity. This is about all of that stuff that is supposed to go on.
I think in everything that you're mentioning is the generation of revenue.
Yes.
And say what you want. This whole situation with this, I don't even want to say it anymore. I'm so sick and tired of hearing COVID-19, coronavirus, blah, 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 and virus, blah, blah. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about it. It's just there, okay? It's in our world. We have to live with it right now.
We have to live with the flu every day.
But, people live with the flu every day. We live with the common cold every day. It's bad. And just life in general can be a bite in the ass, and it gets even worse when it gets hounded on you over and over and over again. But so my whole thing is, when you look at the economic structure of the NCAA and what's happening if they don't do this, if they don't allow these schools to get back onto their respective fields, it could be disastrous, economically disastrous.
Yeah. Just from one season.
And I'm not thinking about the school themselves. I'm thinking about the athletes. I'm thinking about these kids. Some of these kids are 19, 20 years old. Some of them 21, maybe going into 22 years old. And they are staring at an opportunity to have an opportunity to get to a professional level. And if you don't allow them to compete, you're essentially writing them off. Like, how are they supposed to prove that they belong on a professional level and so on and so forth and have that opportunity? Well, when a school chancellor or president just arbitrarily says, well, we're not having football at Snack Tech or whatever it is that you want to fucking call it. We're not having football this year, and that's tough shit for you because I'm saving your life by this virus, not spreading this virus. And this kid is sitting there going, holy shit, I came to this school because it was an opportunity for me to maybe get onto a professional level, and now I can't do that. To me, it's just as damaging as anyone getting sick with the virus. Because, and ultimately, just because you get it doesn't mean you're going to fucking die. It doesn't mean that at all. You know, it could be as simple as you've seen it, a wide-ranging number of effects, and some of them powerful and some of them not so powerful. So I just can't see the NCAA locking everybody into place and saying, yes, you can, no, you can't, when all of this financial ruin, potential ruin is at hand, because it's going to happen. If high schools don't allow it to happen, and you've seen this before, and you've heard me talk about it, our athletic directors in our area are freaking concerned about the idea that they won't have fall sports, because and that's terrible, because you think about the number of football programs that carry other programs financially because of their revenue income, and for a high school to consider that, how could you imagine what a Power 5 college university and the millions of dollars that they bring in and provide? Think about JMU. Think about all the lower tier sports that don't have financial draws. I can't see women's lacrosse being and forgive me, I'm not knocking their sport. I'm just saying it's not even remotely a revenue impact maker as much as football is, right?
Yeah, no, not even close.
Not even close. So, I mean, you can say what you want. That's just the very reality that they're faced with. I'm really, really curious to see what's going to happen in schools where the state itself, the governor theirself, has locked that state down. And like I said, Michigan's number one, because that woman who's in charge of freaking Michigan, she said nobody's playing anything. No, there's not going to be a regular school year next year. Blah blah blah. She's already made a lot of those statements. So I'll be curious.
Jesus Christ.
So.
Like, what is it with these? What is it with the doom lovers right now?
I try not to even think about it. I try to go throughout my day.
I understand that, but how do you get on the podium and you feel good about yourself saying, "Yeah, you better get used to this for another year. You better
however
get
long,
used to this.
however long
it may be."
Right.
And what am I supposed to say there? Like, yeah. You are so right. I can get used to this for another year, sitting on my ass inside.
It's mind
not
numbing.
doing anything.
It's mind numbing. I just like this past week. We were talking about it. I was ready to lose my mind, and by Wednesday, I was like, "Oh my God, I have to leave the house. I have to get out of the house. I'm going to freaking."
It's almost like that's what a job is for, or having a life.
And
Man,
it's
a crazy thought.
I ended up being so busy with my schoolwork that I didn't have a chance to go anywhere until Friday. And it was so good to actually go to school and see some of the people that I work with and talk with them.
And if you don't think that, and if you may think out there that, people are staying inside, no, they're not.
Right.
I hope you understand here, when you see people on social media and all these people who are basically on just media in general who try and say that they speak for the people who care, there are plenty, and I mean plenty, of people who aren't on social media, who don't do any of that shit, and they don't want to be at home, but they don't get on social media and say, you better get used to this for another year, you better get used to this forever, how long it may be. No, they don't do that, because when I went to go get food on Friday night from a Mexican restaurant right up the street, the outside seating was packed. They were packed to the brim with people.
Yeah.
Because guess what? They don't want to be in the fucking house anymore.
Nobody wants
They
to
don't want to be at home anymore.
Yeah.
They want you to go out and do stuff. Go out and have fun. Go out and have a life.
I understand
Can't say
where
the same
everybody's.
for politicians because you go up to Washington and do nothing anyway. So I mean, I'm not surprised.
I don't want to downplay what's going on. I absolutely don't want to do that. But at the same time, people have been locked away for what, 10 weeks?
Yeah, and it hasn't proven shit.
Well,
you look in New York.
I know, but that remains to be seen. That will be written however it's written. So
I'm sorry
we don't want to get into we don't want to get into any of that shit. But at the same time, you can see it. It's right there. People are bubbling over. They want to get the hell out of their houses.
I'm sorry if I'm sounding a little mad, but it's been 2 months now.
Yeah.
It's been 2 months. And you're telling me that we're supposed to get used to this for a whole year?
Yeah.
What?
They're talking about this relapse shit, and I don't know what the hell they're talking about. But we're supposed to be talking about sports. Yeah, it's supposed to come back. Could be just as bad when it comes back. But we're not supposed to be talking about this shit. Let's get on to some sports again, man.
Well, no, I was, but
The
okay,
whole
then
thing
go
was
back.
the NCAA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the whole thing that football is that we actually have some hope that football is coming back.
Yeah.
Great,
Right.
We'd love to see some college football,
Right.
Because the NFL is already moving into place. They're already allowing up to 75 people back at their facility now.
Who?
The NFL,
Right.
At all their facilities.
I thought it was 50.
I swear I saw
Okay,
75.
Maybe I was thinking
swear I
something
saw
else was
75.
50. No, that's I'm sorry, phase 2. Phase 2 of reopening the
That's what the
state
governor said,
yeah,
yeah.
right. It's 50 people.
But the
in it.
NFL said that they will have up to 75 people, and that includes everything from the personnel staff to the equipment staff to the trainers,
Right, I can
all
see
the way
that.
up to the office.
And the thing about you have to know this as well as I do. You've seen it even at Division I JMU. You've seen this. The ability of the equipment staff and the ability of the healthcare professionals to support the football program is not problematic. You know what I mean? You'll have the people. And so when you think about a professional level thing, we're talking about clean, sanitized, well taken care
it's the
of
same
doctors.
thing as the Division I level, yeah.
I'm saying even better at the NFL level. You're talking about millions of dollars being invested into the program. Or you think about just something localized. The Redskins are probably worth $1.5, $1.7 billion. You're not taking it lightly by, oh, hey, we're not going to wipe this down. Or, hey, you were told to wear a mask and gloves, blah, 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 those kinds of things. So I can see how the NFL is going to do everything in their power to make sure that this season gets off the ground, and that includes leaving no stone unturned when it comes to keeping it clean. I just don't see how they couldn't. But NCAA is going to be the same way. And I'm just, God dang, it still comes down to whether those schools, whether those university chancellors or presidents are going to allow it to happen for their school, in their state. Yeah.
Well, if they were reasonable, they would do it and say, yes, we are opening back up.
Right.
For the fall season and for the spring season
Right.
as well. But anyway, that's enough for the NCAA right now. We're going to talk about Michael Vick, actually. We are going to talk about the ESPN 30 for 30. What did you say it came out again, Coach?
I wanted to say it was in February. Was it in February? Let me double check because I looked it up. It says January, but it didn't unveil until then. How long when did it last? Why did they call it Michael Vick? Set to air in a 2-part documentary. Tonight, ESPN, when was this? Yeah, it was at the very end of January is when it came out. And I remember when it came out, and I thought it was February sometime, but it doesn't matter. It came in a 2-part series, just entitled Vick. 30 for 30. And you know as well as I do, any of those 30 for 30s, with the exception of maybe a couple of fringe kinds of 30 for 30s, they're very well done. They're exceptionally well done.
Well, I think it also has to deal with the person that you're going up against and the person that you're trying to go on about. I think the whole situation with Michael Vick is a perfect thing to have on that show.
Right.
Is a perfect example. For those of you who don't know who Michael Vick, and if you don't know Michael Vick, why the fuck are you listening to this podcast? Why are you listening?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, for the noobs out there, he is a former NFL quarterback who played for the Atlanta Falcons, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and
Jets, I think.
It was the New York Jets, then the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think. Yeah, it went like that. It went in that order.
He signed a 1-year deal with the Jets and then left there, and then he thought maybe one more try.
And then I think that was it.
Ended up in Pittsburgh, and then he was done.
I'm almost certain that was it. So, he is a former NFL quarterback. He is known as probably one of the most electric players in NFL history because of his talent and his and basically his whole body. Like He ran the fastest 40-yard dash known to man up until that point when he came into the NFL. He ran, I think it was a 4.2...
4.3?
4.24 was his...
It was crazy.
It was a very fast 40-yard dash because it was they didn't have the timers back then like they do now, and so he ran a very fast 4.40. He was a left-armed quarterback. That was one of the things that also made Michael Vick special.
Strong arm, too.
That you don't see out of many quarterbacks now is that he was left-handed, and he had a cannon. I don't think people realize this about Michael Vick is that he had fast legs, but his arm strength was unreal.
Yeah, they talk about it in the documentary how he just appears he had kind of like a whipping motion kind of thing, but it looks like he's just flipping the ball. Like it's not like he's really working to throw the ball down the field. Like he threw the ball effortlessly, like just a little flick. Like he was, I think one of the examples was he looked like he was throwing darts, and he was just flicking the ball around.
Now for Michael Vick, when he, we'll start back with
part one.
We'll start back with part one. We won't go too much into detail about his younger age, but honestly, I don't want to say it like this, but it's like it seems to be a theme with a lot of these guys where they grew up in a bad neighborhood, a bad part of town,
right,
and they wanted a way out.
Yeah,
and he saw football.
Yeah,
and Michael Vick wasn't just any type of football player though.
Mm-hmm.
He was a all-star for his high school team. In Hampton, Virginia. Here in Virginia. Let that be clear. He's from Virginia.
Warwick High School, I think.
And he was recruited by everybody in the country.
Yeah.
Every school wanted this kid. But the only way that he could stay close to his school was to go to Virginia Tech. I'm sure teams like Richmond or JMU probably recruited him, but they were never going to get him.
Yeah, they were
just
never
going to get
him.
him.
Right.
Because Virginia Tech, UVA are the two top dogs in the state when it comes to Division I FBS football, and so he chose Virginia Tech. They go over his career at Virginia Tech being short-lived, only 2 years because he had the opportunity to go to the NFL. But in his time at Virginia Tech, he redshirted his freshman year.
Yep.
I don't think people realize that. And then when he came back his redshirt freshman year,
right,
he was just
electrifying.
And it wasn't until the national championship game where everyone saw it actually happen.
Right.
Because when he played in the national championship game, he had about 500 yards of total offense by himself.
Against a premier defense, you know what I mean?
Against Bobby Bowden and his Florida State Seminoles.
Right. They probably had no business being in that game at that time, but they couldn't stop him. They couldn't even remotely slow him down.
And you saw players getting injured because they were trying to do more and more, trying to get him, and they just couldn't. And that was one thing about Michael Vick is that when it seems like he was being held down, you still couldn't hold him down. And then the following year, he was only out for one. He only lost 2 games in his college career. One was the national championship, and the other one was when he got hurt in the regular season the next season. But then after that, he chose to go to the NFL. He was picked number 1 overall by the Atlanta Falcons. And for a long time with the Atlanta Falcons, you can go look up highlights with him in the Atlanta Falcons. The split tackle where he made 2 guys miss him and they collided.
They run into each other, yeah.
You could talk about some of the plays that made him really famous in Atlanta. Unfortunately, it was short-lived. Michael Vick was arrested for running an illegal dogfighting ring.
Yeah.
It seemed that at the time...
Well, I don't think he was doing it per se as much as his funds and his friends were doing it. And he was lumped into it as well because it was a part of who he was.
He didn't want to let go of his home life, it seemed.
Yeah, I think it was really important, and I think they impressed upon you how much his family and friends meant to him early on. Like, he was going to take care of them.
When he went down to Virginia Tech and he brought his friend with him just to have him along to Virginia Tech, and his friend was like, I had never experienced anything like that in my life.
Right.
Because, he wanted to keep his childhood friends close and just his...
And then when he made it to the NFL, he was going to keep them close just by the money he had. And
signed a 6-year, $62 million deal right out the gate with Atlanta.
Yeah.
Had a $15 million guaranteed and a $3 million signing bonus.
Right, and then eventually earned a $100 million contract with the Atlanta Falcons, and then all of a sudden, all of this shit started coming down around his ears. But it was clear that I don't know that his friends were taking advantage of him. I think they wanted to portray that to some degree in the documentary, but it just didn't feel like that. It felt like Michael Vick's like, hey, I got all this money. I'm going to share it with my family and friends. That's what I said I was going to do, and I'm going to do that. And so I didn't feel like he was being taken advantage of. I felt like he was just naive about this whole situation of what was going on. Like, I'm a superstar, and people want me for all these different things. And when the charges came out, I was thinking maybe he was thinking that he couldn't go down for this. There's something more to this than what they're talking about. And then I think when the federal government got involved, the FBI basically said, no, you're going to freaking deal with this shit. Then it got real. So part one was really this rise to this unbelievable, untouchable status that he was having and this experience he was having. And then part two comes to all this decline, being caught, being wrapped up in this, receiving a higher federal sentence than they were expecting. When his attorneys did not expect him to receive the 21 months in prison. I think he was given credit. He said he went to prison early to begin serving his sentence, hoping that would shine, make an impact on the future sentencing, and it didn't. The judge felt compelled to freaking punish him the biggest, or not the biggest, but more than what was accepted at that time. And I think that they tried to blend how, well, he's a black man and he probably got more than he deserved, and then they threw in the dog people. They threw in PETA. They threw in all of these dog lovers. And
I don't think it was just PETA, though.
Well, no.
I feel like it was people in general who had lost faith in him and said, Michael, how could you do this?
Right. And they were just lambasting him like you wouldn't believe they freaking crushed him. But you know what? The whole thing about this is that you could tell it really ate at Michael Vick. It ate at his core.
I know. And
I don't know. I think it was really important because if you remember in part two, about halfway through, he quickly realizes that I have an opportunity to make amends. And when he realizes that, and he says, I'm going to redeem myself. There has to be some sort of redemption in this for me. And then he agrees to work with. I'm trying to think of the organization he goes to work. Who he is? It. Is it?
I can't think of that.
I want to say like the SPCA, but he goes to work for an organization to prevent this shit from happening. And he doesn't do it halfway, and he doesn't just talk about it. He does it all the way. And you could just see this change in him. Like you could see the way he had his hair and the way he presented himself when he first came into the league. He came with his posse, his group of guys, and then
always partying in Atlanta,
right. And then his second part,
stuff.
and then in his second part of this documentary, you just see him completely changed, where he is a contributor to great change, and you could see it in the suit that he wore, the way he held his head up. And he'd been through shit and said, I'm going to do this, and hopefully you'll find a way to forgive me, and because I'm going to do it the right way. And he did. And then when you see guys like Tony Dungy and Andy Reid reaching out to him, and then Goodell agreeing that he has done what he said he was going to do, I just thought it was a phenomenal documentary. It's like this rise and fall and then redemption of Michael Vick. And it's long. Each one, it's like 4 hours. Each one is 2 hours long, so they do it up.
I think also people need to understand, like the Philly era about him is that when he left the NFL and was put in prison, like all ties to the Atlanta Falcons were off. Then he was completely released. He comes back and he gets signed by Philadelphia. He's like, oh, look at that, Convict City, ain't ya? Of course you would sign this guy, and it still goes on today, man, that people will never forgive him.
Yeah.
And you know what you can say to those people? Eat shit.
Yeah.
I'm serious. If you're that, grow the fuck up. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Like, if it was your dog, I would understand. But if it happened over 16 years ago,
Yeah.
that this
and
whole
they won't give him.
down.
I know, and they won't give him the benefit of that redemption. I've said for 3 times now that he has consistently done everything that he's walked the walk and talked the talk and done everything to earn your forgiveness. And for people to hang him out there and not allow it and say he's dog fighting, you know what? It's like you said, grow the fuck up. Get over yourself.
Grow up.
And
if you call yourself an adult, you would be able to move on from this and
you
not
would,
care.
And you would. And if one look at this documentary says that, I think he and his friends just felt like this was something that got way bigger than them, way faster than them, and it got out of hand.
But I've also another thing like about people basically not giving him the benefit of the doubt is if you ever go talk to a teammate of Michael Vick,
yeah,
he's the greatest guy I've ever met.
Right.
Because all he cares about is you.
Right.
If you ever talk to somebody, he cares about you. He doesn't care about himself. He wants to talk about you every single time. Yeah. And you talk about that in Philly when he was there. He won the Comeback Player of the Year in 2010.
Yep.
Led the
Eagles. He had his best career passing and rushing and what have you with under the tutelage of Andy Reid and Tony Dungy.
And then what was it? He goes to New York and he plays, and you start to see the wheels fall off a little bit, and then it starts going down. But
and he even says that in the video, or in the documentary. He basically says, "Look, I can't play this game halfway. I have to play it the way I play it, and then of course I'm going to take my shots." And he's not wrong when he says that. Because he's a running quarterback, all the rules were off when it came to him, and he took enormous shots. He took way more shots than he should have, because they even talked about his inability to slide. Like he didn't know how to slide.
He would always go out of bounds, or
he'd slide, and it looked like it was going to be painful just sliding. But yeah, your mother and I watched it. I don't know, sometime last week, and we thought it was very well done, and so I thought we should bring it to the show.
And then, I mean, if you don't really care for this, then I mean, he's a very religious person now. If you ever listen to him, he's changed his whole persona basically to talk about God and how.
Well, he's not a very old guy,
Oh no, he's only in his 40s.
Yeah, I think he's 44, 43,
44.
That. Yeah, shit, I'm 10 years older than he is.
And he's still. I know that he could still burn people. I remember that there was a story out there about back in 2013. If you don't know LaShawn McCoy, he challenged Michael Vick to a 100-yard sprint, and I think Michael Vick is 30 years old at the time, or and if it was in 2013, so you're talking about 12 years later from when he came into the NFL, because he came in 2001. So let's say he's about 21 years old when he gets into the NFL. That man's 30.
Not even 21.
Well, he's redshirt sophomore year he came in, so that's 3 years of college.
19, 20?
So that's 3 years of college. So that's about 20, 21. Okay, so he's 32 years old. And they said that he absolutely smoked LaShawn McCoy. It wasn't even close. And that's just... He's like a mythical creature, because you know that no matter when he wants to run, he's just the fastest on the field. And I hope one day he's in the Hall of Fame, because he changed the game for everybody. If you look in the past couple of years of what he brought to the table, just think of back in the day where you had guys like Warren Moon. He wasn't a running quarterback. He wasn't.
Right.
You had Doug Williams as well, the first African American to win a Super Bowl as well.
Right.
Those guys were not athletic as Michael Vick was.
Yeah.
And then boom.
But I don't. That's where I'll disagree with you. I think he belongs in the Hall of Very Good, but he's not Hall of Fame material.
But
He's just not. And it has nothing to do with getting busted with dogfighting and stuff like that. I just don't think his stats are there. I mean, they're just not.
But I don't look at stats right now because there are still old guys that are back in the 1940s that are getting into the Hall of Fame. And I'm like, if you're talking about stats, like these don't even compare. And you're saying it was for the time of the game.
Right.
But Michael Vick, I see the Hall of Fame as if you left your mark on the NFL for the future. And if you left your mark on
I mean, they tried to show that
NFL.
between him and Patrick Mahomes, and because Patrick Mahomes represents the future of the game, and then you got Lamar Jackson
broke his record,
right,
rushing yards by a quarterback in the season.
Right.
Not even Cam Newton could do that back when he came into the NFL. Like it's just something like that. Right. Where he was the icon that everyone looked at. He was when they had Allen Iverson on.
Right.
You know, he was the bad boy that everyone liked.
But I'll tell you what, Allen Iverson was a phenomenal high school quarterback. I mean, he was ridiculous.
But he chose the life of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, and it played off well. I mean, he made $1 gazillion playing basketball, and even I don't even know if he's 40 years old now. Iverson's retired; he hasn't played in years, and I don't even know if he's 40 years old
because he doesn't need to because he made so much money from sponsorships and ad deals and basketball. So, anything else on Michael Vick? Or
no, I think people should go out and check it out and go get onto your I don't know. It's got to be in DirecTV. There's going to be some sort of lineup where you can get to it or access it. But people should check it out. It's really good.
It should be on ESPN or ESPN Plus if you
do
have that.
Yeah, if you have the ESPN Plus, obviously you can get all the 30 for 30s if you have the Plus.
All right. Well, it looks like it's going to be a short show though. Then if we get to hops, then so let's go ahead and get into hops.
Okay.
Don't worry, I don't have anything like the Zone of Death to blow your mind again. To that extent, but my first one. So this last week, Big Ben went to go get a haircut.
Oh, I saw that.
Big Ben went to go get a haircut, and if you haven't seen what Big Ben looked like before his haircut, he looked like a fucking caveman. Okay, he had a huge beard, he had long hair, and well, basically this story goes as this: he went to go get a haircut, and a video was posted of him getting a haircut. With a close friend. The barber is a close friend of his. And apparently the video got wind to the governor of the governor of Pennsylvania. And the governor was not happy seeing that Big Ben was getting a haircut and saying, well, you're putting other people in danger right now. And it's like, dude, once again, man, eat shit. Yeah. Like, come on. What is your problem with him getting a haircut? Have you not seen pictures of the man? He looked like a caveman. And on top of that, the barber came back and said, look, I am a close friend of his, and he asked me to come and do it, and I am wearing gloves in the video and a mask as well. So whatever you may think is going on, nothing is going on. It's a haircut, in which haircuts are now available here in Virginia with reservations. I got one, my brother got one, my dad got one. We all went and got one. And we all have haircuts now. I don't understand what the big problem is with that one. And then my next hops of the week is the NBA could be coming back for a short time.
Yeah, I did see that.
The NBA
using
is actually
Disney World, right?
Disney World as a place to
resort
play.
Because of something about the arena is large enough.
The Worldwide Sports Complex is big enough to allow it.
Three courts, I think.
I don't know. I didn't read that much into it.
But they were talking about locker room facilities and training facilities and playing facilities that would allow them to maybe make it. Today they were supposed to have some sort of continuing saga about whether they could pull it off using the Disney World resorts. So, but I did see that.
Yeah, I think that it's going to happen at some point because it's got to happen at some point. Same thing with the MLB. It's going to happen at some point. So those were my two hops, though.
Okay, so mine's real simple. The first one is a really simple memory thing. Excuse me, and that is Memorial Day and why we do this, going all the way back to the Civil War, and the fact that the idea that we should honor the men and women and the dead who gave their their last full measure so that we could have the freedoms that we have is pretty cool. And I don't think it's a federal holiday until the 1970s when it's officially made a federal holiday at that time. But up until that point, they had days where people would have these memorials and remembering all the way back all the soldiers that had fallen in their war and stuff like that. And I think that's important to do. I think sometimes it gets lost on people as to why we have these things. They just look forward to a 3-day weekend rather than the true purpose of why we have it. I mean, there's some discussion that says,
you can't barbecue outside
now. They were saying that that there was some discussion that the first Memorial Days go all the way back to just shortly after the Confederacy surrenders, and that it may have been organized by several free slaves at that time back in 1865 as a thank you to the Union for winning and the men who laid down their lives, which is freaking powerful. I think that's an amazing message. So I was thinking about your grandfather and your grandmother during Memorial Day because those are important things that you should remember about the people who gave their life and their military service to this country.
Yeah.
Not just Veterans Day, but all of the people that you don't have. That's what Memorial Day is about, all of the fallen soldiers for their war and stuff like that. But I think it's important.
When I said 2 weeks ago on May 8th or 9th, that it was the 75th year anniversary of the unconditional surrender of the Axis powers.
Yeah.
Thinking back and saying, this pandemic that's going on, it doesn't even come close to the fear that spread throughout the world when World War II was going on and soldiers were fighting over in Europe, Japan, Africa. They were fighting for every sort of freedom for this country.
I mean, today they're having they're having the Pacific. The Pacific is being shown on.
I have it on DVD upstairs.
Yeah, I mean, but we have that. But I'm just saying it's being shown on History Channel or whatever. It's being shown. Or no, it's on HBO, and it's on, obviously it's the entire series. I think there were, 11 episodes?
There's
10. Or,
it's
I
the
think,
same thing as Band of Brothers.
No, Band of Brothers was 11 episodes, wasn't it?
No, it's 10.
All right. Shit, I don't know. I haven't seen that in a while. I'd love to see that. I wonder if that's going to be on. But that was it. The other one was this really cool story I heard about Charles Barkley. And Charles Barkley back in 1992 was going to be traded to the Lakers. And so he gets a call from his agent in the morning in 1992 saying that he's going to be traded to the Lakers. And so Barkley's freaking jacked up. So he calls some friends, and by noon, they're out freaking going to having a party celebrating all this stuff. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, the agent calls and says, Philly backed out on it. And he's like, "What do you mean they backed out on it?" He goes, "Yeah, they got kind of scared. They didn't want to screw up the deal." Well, Barkley by this time has been drinking for 3.5 hours. Well, he fucking plays that night. He said, "I was drunk as fuck." He played the game. He goes, when he finds out about the deal, he said he played that night. He doesn't even remember how he played. Can you believe that? He's
I really can believe that.
And then
that's what those professional athletes used to do. They didn't think, they just did it.
Right. But he's like, I don't even remember how well I played. I probably didn't play that well because I was still pissed about the trade not going through.
How do you let him play if he's hammered? I don't understand as an organization why you would let him play.
Right, and he does anyway. But the thing is, the deal with the Sixers, because he was with the Sixers, he doesn't end up going to the Lakers anyway. He gets traded to the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
And then the very next season, guess what? He wins a fucking MVP, and they go all the way to the finals, and they lose to Jordan. And we just talked about freaking The Last Dance. They lose to Jordan in the finals, 92-93. Doesn't
sound so bad at all.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, besides losing in the championship.
Right. But the fact that he wins a freaking MVP, his career has changed from that point forward.
It's all thanks to him getting drunk as fuck one night at a
So
game.
I thought that was kind of cool. I was looking that up. And there was a story about they brought it up to him. Yeah, and he used the words drunk as fuck.
I hope it wasn't on national television.
No,
I hope it was on national
the article
television.
was in an article, and you could see they had to blur out or the bleep out his expletive for DAF. So there you go. Those are my two, Memorial Day, and of course you can't have Memorial Day without drinking. And Charles Barkley being hammered during a game when he was supposed to be traded. So
Yeah.
those are,
Well, I mean, well, guys, it's going to be a shorter show today.
yeah.
It's a holiday, so we hope you guys will enjoy this episode, though.
We're going to be sampling the beers next show, though. The actual beers.
Who's
next
this special
show.
guest that the host of the show doesn't
I don't know.
about?
I don't know. I'm
Oh,
thinking
okay.
maybe Buzzy might be able to make it.
Finally?
Maybe.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully that he will join us because I would like to actually introduce some more segments into the show.
Yeah, yeah.
He could do the damn shotgun round then.
Yeah,
finally.
he could.
He could actually do some questions.
Yeah.
And I could actually listen to some Hops because I don't think he was ever on when we started Hops because it
No.
was during the season. But I hope he will come back then soon.
Yeah.
Okay, well, enjoy your Memorial Day, guys.
Yep.
We're going to get out of here.
All right.
As always, peace out. Love you guys.
See ya.